There's something I used to say back then when people say politicians are greedy and all that. I said, you too be greedy. If they are taking 5 kilometers, you take from 6 kilometers. Don't go and fight that 5 kilometers because their eye will be there.
Of course, you can have governor's consent build and have your building demolished even without governor's consent that you have. And that's because there are things such as...
Note, 2026 is a pre-election year.
Yeah.
I will leave it at that, but if you are wise, you are wise. Real estate is the third largest sector in the economy and is definitely going to grow bigger than in 2025. And for the sector, one good way to make money is to look at he who has an ear, let him hear.
Even with the tax laws itself, there's a lot that has to be brought into clarity regarding what are we following, and then when it comes to the ones that actually affect real estate, what I know is this.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Square Meter Stories by the Detail Apartments. Welcome to 2026 and it promises to be an exciting year. I hope you have all your goals penned down for the year because I promise you it's going to be a great one. Today what we'd love to do is give you a quick review of the year 2025 for the real estate sector. So how did things pan out in the real estate sector in 2025 and what can we look forward to for the year 2026? As always, I'm joined by Architect Olamidun for this special edition. Architect Olamidun, welcome once again to Square Meter Stories. It's 2026. We're going to be talking reviews and projections. What's your take? How was 2025 for the real estate sector?
Well, first and foremost, Happy New Year to you.
Yes.
And it's great to be back again, discussing everything real estate. 2025 was a very, very good year. We saw very interesting things happen, in the real estate space, so part of which, we're here to review and also to give kind of like an outlook, as to the things that we see shaping the year 2026, right? And one of the very important things, if you ask me, that happened, last year was real estate itself, becoming the third largest, contributor to GDP. We've seen real estate, assert itself as a dominant force, which is an indicator of the fact that the economy continues to open up, the economy is growing, and real estate is a major driver, of the growth and the development of the economy itself. So a lot of attention now is on real estate. I mean, if in the past people thought, oh, property was just a luxury to have, it's almost like a necessity, so to speak now. Because what other ways, can you bank, your revenue, your income? What other ways can you preserve, your capital? What other ways can you look at growing your capital, when you have capital gains? What other ways can you look at owning something that you can liquidate, in the future for some other use and things like that? So real estate in itself has asserted itself as a major contributor, to the economy. And we've seen a lot of people in different forms, be it residential, commercial, and even, these days now, short lets. We saw the Dirty December, happen, and I'm very much interested in seeing how the figures for this year compared to the figures of last year. Remember, in 2024, the figures were released, I think, sometime March or so, 2025 or so, something like that. We had, this December itself contributes about, I'd say, 12.6 billion alone were made on rentals and short lets, So we saw that a lot of people started to take positions in getting the short-let apartments, in readiness for 2025. Although, there are reports early in December of last year that the space was a little bit shaky, prices went up, a lot of people seeing what happened in 2024 were ready to cash out big, so a lot of people were in for a shock when they were looking at the property prices, and we'll get into that later, where people were thinking, oh, you mean I can actually want to get a short-let space, and you have those prices more expensive than a conventional hotel, So, but I think things later improved. People were able to adjust prices, and we saw very, very strong demand, for short lets late in December. So I'm very, very much interested in seeing how those figures compare with what happened in 2024.
So basically, we are looking at 2026 and saying that that rise in demand is going to steadily grow.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. What else do you expect of a growing economy? Even back-to-back quarters, the Nigerian economy has continued to show growth. The numbers released by the National Bureau of Statistics indicated, I think the economy grew by about 3 point something percent, in the previous quarter, and it has shown steady growth. And when you see the economy growing in that manner, and you see real estate contributing significantly to the growth of that economy, I mean, the outlook for that is very positive. So as people continue to take positions, it's a very, very good strategy. You can never go wrong in real estate, particularly because the economy is growing. If the economy was mature, then you may want to take a different position. But there's so much opportunities in real estate right now, particularly on the residential side. So much growth. There's so much to look forward to in 2026.
And it's interesting you mentioned the growth of the real estate sector. One of the questions we kept getting throughout 2025 is that, let me use local palace. Where will they see this money? And
Yeah.
what we noticed was diaspora remittances. We have seen even more diasporans looking to buy real estate in Nigeria. They are going for off-plan properties. They are going for residential properties, rental properties.
They are buying outrightly.
They are buying outrightly. So that was a very heavy factor in the growth of the real estate sector. Those monies coming in from the diaspora. Are we expecting to see that same trajectory in 2026?
I mean, diaspora remittances have always been a very huge contributor, to the growth of real estate. But there's something else that we're not even talking about, which is the innovation that we've been seeing, amongst property players, and the players in the space, where they are actually bringing out products, and also systems in which people can own real estate now. I saw fractional ownership go up, co-owning, go up significantly. And there are different ways and measures in which, players in this space are packaging their products, making it attractive enough for those who may not really have the wherewithal to buy it by themselves, And the thing about it is the fractional ownership or co-ownership is designed not for people to hold it long term, I see even that happening more, where you key into a project very early stage and you're able to dispose of it later in the project, and you get some kind of return, because you may not be able to afford that project or that property, in entirety. Say a property is 100 million, and then maybe you and a couple of your friends say, okay, you know what, can we key into this property and exit before the property hits maturity upon completion. So I see those kind of deals and those kind of products or packages, come more and more into play, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to attract as much inflows, as a developer, as a player in this space. So diaspora remittances is one, but innovation has also been a very huge factor in the increased activity or play that we've seen in this space.
Okay, then what other thing would you say you saw heavily in 2025? There was a lot of complaints with regards to rental prices. You saw that in 2025?
Oh, yes. A lot. You see, the space has evolved. Real estate as we knew it in 2022, 2023 isn't the same game anymore, right? We're even going to talk about hopefully the tax laws later on in the podcast and how that affects or how that will affect property prices in this new year, because property prices are affected by certain metrics. Number one, very key, is the price of materials, right? Everything basically is tied to foreign exchange, because yes, we may not like it, but we are still very heavily import dependent. We are net importers in this country. And the fact that everything is tied to the dollar, basically. So when you see the FX market continue to fluctuate, the Naira recently has been gaining,
stable,
yes, but also has been slipping a little bit. In December, it fell a little bit.
Yes,
I think by about 1 or 2% or so, thereabouts. And so anything that happens in that space, the volatility of the currency definitely would impact upon the prices of real estate. So everything, and also people also want to get a return. So rentals that you're talking about now, I mean, if I am able to deliver a property at a certain price that is above what I budgeted, definitely I will still want to factor in how I'll get my money back in X amount of time or X amount of years. So I'll factor that into the rentals. And even short lets, I mean, everything is just tied, to the volatility of prices and also materials in the market. So it happened last year. It kind of stabilized. It also went up again in December. But all things being equal, everything more or less is subjected to the forces of supply demand, right? Be it of materials, be it what's happening, in the currency space, that's FX and all of that. So it has been increasing, but then again too, that has not affected or dampened the demand for real estate and the growth that we've seen quarter on quarter.
Okay, now you talked about the rise in rental prices, and one point you mentioned was the rise in cost of materials, cost of labors, and other factors.
Yes.
What would you say to people who say, but this house that was built 40 years ago, this house was built 30 years ago, why is the landlord increasing the price like this?
What you do not know is that, I really feel, probably because I'm a practitioner, when I see things like that happen and then people start to bake and say this person is greedy or whatever it is, you forget that this person has financed that house. You don't know how that house came to be. It may be standing or it may have been completed 2 or 3 years ago. But what you know is that some people are still financing the development of that project beyond the completion and the habitation of that particular project. Yes. Also, it takes a lot of money or a lot of time, a lot of pain also to keep properties in a particular standard that makes it possible to command the value that people put on it. So you don't see that as well. That also comes from financing as well. Nobody would just go and... There's a cost of capital.
Yes.
I mean, be it that it is your own money or the money that you get from someone or for some institution to finance a project. There's a cost to it, So, but what is very necessary, I think, is a careful balance, because property prices can't, or even rentals can't continue to go up just like that without any checks, because you have to factor in the fact that you have competitors, the other players in the space as well. People try to differentiate on offerings. People try to differentiate on features. But at the end of the day, it is a reality that even if that house was built 30-something years ago, there's a cost to maintaining the house in its form. There's a cost to the added features, that the house has to take on to be able to attract the quality of clients. Because a house that was built 10 years ago doesn't stay the same way. You upgrade the house, you put certain things in it, so that you are able to attract the kind of clients and also command the kind of value that you want of your investments, which you have financed one way or the other that people do not know about. So it is just a reality that we have to come to terms with.
You also mentioned something about the new tax law. We'll come back to that. But still on the growth of the real estate sector, I think another thing we need to also factor in, 2025, the launch of MREF.
Yes, that's a big one.
Ministry of Finance, Real Estate Investment Fund.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's it. Ministry of Finance, Infrastructure, Real Estate Investment Fund. Prior to that, in 2025, I would say probably 80% of people in the real estate space, that means investors, probably 80%, I might be wrong, but that's the feeling I got, were diasporans. But since the introduction of MREF, we are seeing an increase in Nigerians of every walk of life, everyday Nigerians, being able to access 25% of their pension and then MREF to get a property. We are seeing, like the demand is exploding now with people saying, listen, I'm doing MREF to get this property. If the government were to sustain this, how much of an impact do you think it will have in 2026 in terms of the growth of the sector?
So the Ministry of Finance Real Estate Investment Fund, the MREF, is a game changer. And I think that's how economies actually work. That's how countries grow their base. It is by enabling its citizens have access to housing. Housing is one of the basic essentials of life, and it is also a driver of economy. And so this initiative, to at single digits interest rates, because I think it stands at 9.75%
thereabouts.
and has a duration, I think, of about 20 years or so. It is a lot of people seeing that, okay, you know what, there's a purposeful initiative by the government to make it accessible or make housing accessible, which also has the ripple effect of growing the economy itself, right? And I think part of the basis of the government's introducing this in 2025 was they saw real estate actually come very strong, and you cannot ignore a sector that is growing. You just have to find ways to take advantage of it or to even make it blossom further. So I see it deepening or I would say widening the contribution of real estate, to the economy itself. And also a lot of people, like you rightly said, before now, it was more of diasporans really that were driving the real estate space. And let's just say it as it is. The average person here, the disposable income of someone, tied with whatever it is that they have as pensions, it wasn't enough to finance, housing. Yes, we had some mortgage institutions, prime mortgage institutions, that would take on people, but I think it was so limited.
Yeah.
It was so limited in scope. But this is very, very purposeful. This is very deliberate step by the government. And we've had a lot of people come and say, okay, you know what, I want to buy this property and I'm going to use MREIF. It's no longer a strange thing.
Yeah.
And I think the process of accessing it has been simplified somewhat. We have had people even at the detail apartments come to say, okay, you know what, we want to use MREIF, right? And we've told them, okay, yeah, no, not a problem. It's either, they are looking at the projects that we have in the pipelines that we have not yet brought to or released to the market. But people are actually very much more interested, in owning properties now. And they know that they can, because of this initiative, a very, very commendable one. And if anything at all, it just shows that there's a lot more growth for the real estate space. Developers can put properties to market, and there are actually people who can buy them and own them. Before now, there are aspirants of people with the wherewithal will buy these properties and will complain that, oh, these properties are not being inhabited. But people actually that need these properties to live in them are the ones who actually use this MREIF.
Yes.
A new couple or somebody, in the middle class who says, you know what, I've saved enough, to have the initial down payment, and also the fact that I have contributed towards my pensions and I can afford this particular thing. Now, so it's going to increase activity in the space. It's going to increase the contribution of real estate, to the economy, and overall is a happy and good one, for the growth of the industry itself.
So more growth in 2026?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Right.
Absolutely.
Now the big one, the one
tax
that is causing a lot of confusion.
Yes.
Now, not just for the real estate, because it's going to impact every sector.
Yes.
The question is, with this new tax law taking effect this year,
Yes.
where does the real estate sector stand? Because I've spoken with a couple of tax professionals.
Yeah.
And some things I've heard, I'm like, people don't know this. People don't know this. And
Yes.
hopefully in a subsequent episode of Square Meter Stories, we hope to have someone from the FIRS to talk to us specifically about provisions of the law that affects the real estate sector. So for you as an investor, for you as a player in the sector, that would be an episode you don't want to miss. You don't want to run afoul of the government this time around.
Exactly.
So people are still confused about the tax law. Now, we can't delve into the nitty-gritty of what the tax law says.
There's still a lot of clarity that needs to be brought to light on that, yes.
But looking at it, obviously from the little we've read, the little we've studied from the tax law, you know that landlords will likely not be escaping paying taxes that they should pay from rents collected, things like service charge and all of that. For the average Nigerian who is going to be renting a house, buying a house,
yes,
how does he factor this in? And how does this tax law, if, which I believe it would anyways, impact on the prices of properties?
I'm no tax professional, okay? But I see this actually impacting transactions in this new year. I think late December, there was this thing about, some of the clauses, in the tax bill, that appear to have been forged or so.
Yes,
There are
yes.
some things that, so even with the tax laws itself, we are not quite sure if the government, has the I don't know if I could call it the is it the impetus now to carry on, implementing or enforcing these laws, knowing the outcry and the backlash that
Yeah, and
happened just
besides,
last
like,
month.
sorry to interrupt, but
Yes.
besides, I don't know if it's that we have two tax laws now, because the latest news I heard was
Yes.
that the Senate
Yes.
is regazetting the original one they
So
passed.
that's what I'm saying. There is so much, there's so much clarity that needs to be brought to light, regarding which is what they are following, which is what has been enforced. Of course, definitely they passed the tax law. I think they now, before gazetting it, or had they gazetted it, now said that, look, what we passed is not what you are gazetting, and then we have to actually gazette what we passed. So there's a lot that has to be brought into clarity regarding what are we following, and then when it comes to the ones that actually affect real estate, what I know is this is the government is a lot more deliberate about collecting its taxes. The government is also more deliberate about what it wants to tax. The real estate space is actually a huge contributor to the economy, and there's a lot that the government will be looking at in this space, to collect its own dues as well. I know for a fact that what people would do is, okay, let me use this analogy for example. Okay, you go to a hotel, right? And you book a room, whatever it is that you saw on the internet, or even as their rates. You go in there, you say, what are your rates for your rooms? And then, standard hotel that is. And then you book the room. They print a receipt out to you. If you look very carefully at that receipt, you're paying VAT on that room. But what you see is more or less like the gross, what's it called, rate for the room. There are people who are already effecting this, or who have been effecting it. Standard, what's it called, investors, shortlets, and those who actually would buy properties and sell properties, do not have this tax factored as a line item.
Yes.
So I see a lot of people factoring this because everybody wants to be compliant. Nobody wants to be caught, by the long arms of the law doing the wrong thing. So I see that impacting property prices, and then people reviewing their prices upwards to accommodate whatever it is that is due for the government. Now, my concern is this. Not just the real estate space is going to be doing this. Every sector of the economy is going to be doing this. And we're going to see prices go up. My concern is, are we sure that we are actually addressing the problem, right, of generating revenue for the government, or we are actually still impacting the populace negatively on something that the government really hasn't addressed as a fundamental issue on how it intends to collect taxes from people? Because ideally, if taxes are being enforced, everything it is that we make right now is taxable itself.
Yes.
It is it's not designed to add more to the burden of the end user or the person who is buying it. But that's what's going to translate, and it's just going to be interesting. I'm no seer. I don't really know how 2026 is going to play out in that regard. But I know for a fact that people want to make those adjustments, and we'll see that impacting the prices of property, rentals, and also whatnot as you have it in the value chain for real estate. What do you think about it?
Yeah, like for me as a landlord, I'm renting out my apartment, say 5 million naira a year. Now I want that 5 million naira
Net.
Don't touch it.
Yeah,
See,
exactly.
after all deductions made,
I want my
minimum
5 million.
5 million must be mine.
Exactly.
If the government is going to be taxing me,
Yeah.
now I don't know if, yes, I know there's always been a law, I think even from 2019, if I'm not mistaken, that you're supposed to pay taxes on it, but it hasn't been enforced. Now, we don't know yet if the taxes you have to pay, that's on the landlord for the rent collected and all of that, land use charge, things of that nature, if it's supposed to increase with this new tax law. We don't know that yet.
There's no clarity on that yet.
Exactly, but probably when we have that fellow from FIRS, we'll get clarity on it. But if now the government is going to enforce it, It means that for me, that I didn't know about the law on taxing, I just collect my rent, and that is it. Now the government wants to enforce it.
Yes.
From the little noise we've heard around that you receive money and the government will be able to go into your bank account and take their tax, or they'll give you a notice which you have to challenge, blah, blah, blah. Confusion. But for me, I want my 5 million. Okay, government is going to collect whatever percent as tax. Fine. I increase my rent to balance for that tax I'm going to pay. So that when I pay the tax or whatever else the government wants,
Yes.
I'm walking home with my 5 million.
Yes.
So whether we like it or not, it will be cleared up. But whichever way it happens, definitely we are going to see an increase in prices.
So there comes my concern, right? Because prices shouldn't just go up for the sake of the fact that a policy is in effect. Because if we continue to tax each other, in paying these taxes back to the government itself, wherein is the so-called or supposed value? Because when there's an increase in the price of something, I believe that because there's an added value, which I stand to gain itself.
Yeah.
But my concern is the net effect of this whole spike, in rates, not just in real estate, in other sectors. So, the price of whatever it is that you're paying to buy whatever commodity is going to go up because everybody now is being dragged into that tax net, so to speak. I am just weary about how that plays out. And the fact that there needs to be some very, very careful balance on the sides of the government itself. It's just very, very interesting, to see how that. But definitely, that's an outlook as to how things will shape out, and we'll just see how things go on. I believe there's a way in which things would actually settle out, and then things.
But still on the matter, another thought is this: that with the outcry that we had in 2025, the outcry concerning rent prices was crazy.
Yes,
And
particularly in December.
You can understand people's pains.
Yes.
And then with the tax law coming in, that would likely impact the sector again, and prices go up even further. I might, maybe a little projection,
Yes.
that there will be some form of control the government will want to bring in. I know Lagos State is deliberating on some new tenancy laws.
Yes.
Now, control not in the sense of pegging how much a landlord can charge, but control in the sense of by what percent you can actually increase.
But is that
your rent.
really controllable? Is that really controllable? See,
Nigerian, we saw it a lot
Yes,
this year. What
yes.
a lot of landlords resorted to
Yes.
was, let's give you a quick notice. I want to use my property. Give you a quick notice. And then a lot of people initially would get that quick notice and say, this is not doing, or the landlord says, I want to increase my rent. I'm not doing. Okay, you are paying 5 million. Now the landlord says, I want 9 million. And I'm going to look for a house. And the report I got from a lot of people was that when they went outside to go and look for a house,
Yes.
wisdom spoke to them and said,
Yes.
go and negotiate with your landlord.
Yes.
Okay, he wants 9 million, guy, from 5 million to 9 is too much. Let me give you 7.5. And if you've been a good tenant,
Yes.
the landlord will say, okay, I'll make it 7.5.
No, but that's always happened, right? That's not a new thing, or even although maybe it's a lot more prevalent, right? Because of the fact that people are making adjustments and they want to make more returns for themselves. But here's another thing, a quick thought about it. This is exactly what I think would happen. The way things happened in December, where prices for shortlets really went sky high. A lot of people started to really, if you're going to raise your prices and I'm not going to buy or patronize you, then you're also forced to make this adjustment. So people who raise prices arbitrarily for the sake of, something is in effect, would be forced to also review those rates downwards when they see the knock-on effects, because at the end of the day, whatever it is that you put on your property or your product, if people aren't patronizing you or coming to buy it, it's speaking something. It's saying that if you do not review this downwards, then you may be left with even no revenue at all. So it will be a push-pull kind of effect, and they eventually settle somewhere. But is it going to impact prices? Yes, it will definitely impact prices. By how much is what we do not know. But it'll be interesting to see how things play out in 2026.
All right.
Let me talk about something. Part of what has been driving more activity. We've talked about MREF, we've talked about the growth, of real estate itself. We've talked about how there's a lot more activity, diasporans are also coming in. Migration into Lagos State
Yes.
in itself. How do you see that as a factor, affecting real estate in 2026? Because a lot has been happening. Lagos is still growing, right? This is where the action is. Everybody wants a piece of Lagos. How do you think that would be impacting that?
That was the next thing I wanted to mention when you were talking about, short-let, rent. And I wanted to point out that there's a difference between short-let and rentals. So for the short-let, there's the option of the hotels. So while some short-let apartments, even 2 bedrooms, were skyrocketing from like 200, 180 to 400, 500, hotels were remaining fairly stable with their prices.
Yeah.
When it comes to rent, the demand is way higher, the supply is way lower. And you have a Lagos State, now we're talking about Lagos State, where more than any other state in the country, okay, probably as the year goes on, we'll look for some statistics to that regards. But it's one thing we've known, a trend we've seen over the years, past years, that migration to Lagos far outpaces migration to any other state. Now, it's a problem because you have increased migration into the state. Demand for housing, for rental housing on the rise.
Definitely.
Let me give you an example. We at Abraham Adesanya in Lekki.
Yes.
I have a friend who was looking for a 2-bedroom further down in Ibeju, Lekki. All those, what's that area called? Lakowe, Bukije, Onosa.
Yes, Onosa.
And a 2-bedroom apartment was going for like 2 million, 2.5. New ones.
Wow.
Now you can get older ones for like
Wow.
1.5,
Yes.
1.8.
Yes.
And it blew my mind. Then when I looked at Sangotedo, which is before that, a 2-bedroom, guess how much it's going for now?
It can't be anything less than 3.5 million.
3 to 4 million
Yes,
naira.
yes, in Sangotedo
In
today.
Sangotedo for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Apartment, yes.
When I did some findings to ask around that, why are these prices going crazy? What I got consistently from different realtors around was that because of the rental prices, Lekki, before you had people saying, oh, I don't want to go beyond Lekki. Then it turns to, I don't want to go beyond Jakonde. No, Ikate. It was first Ikate.
It was Ikate.
Then
there was
I don't want to go beyond Jakonde.
There was Chevron.
Then I don't want to go beyond Chevron.
Then it was Ikota.
Then it was Ikota.
Then
now,
was Ajah.
Now,
Yeah.
it's Sangotedo. So, because of the rental prices in Lekki, Ikate, and the rest, 2 bedrooms going for as much as 12, 15 million, and they are scarce. That's the truth. They are scarce. Like if
Correct.
you put a 2-bedroom apartment
It's
for
gonna
rent
go.
in Ikate today, I bet you that this same today you launched it, you will have 5 people on it, and some of them will even be offering you higher prices that I just need this thing close to my office.
Correct.
Now, people who can't compete with that are rushing to Sangotedo. Landlords in these axes that are building new properties are looking at their costs, looking at the demand, and saying, this is how much we want. Before you know it, you will go to places like Aboyaya and a 2-bedroom is going for 4 million. That migration, now that's even within Lagos. Now you have new people coming into the state looking for apartments like that. I know a couple of people from Port Harcourt now. They started, oh, I want something in Chevron. I told them prices. They say, where can we get for this budget? I said, better come to Sangotedo. And it's affecting sales. Let me give you another instance.
Okay.
Orchard Road was somewhere that people were avoiding because of traffic.
Yes.
So you'll be surprised that you get to Chevron, you see a 2-3 bedroom or even a duplex. Let's use a duplex. Then for like 150, say a 4-bedroom duplex in Chevron. Now, right next to it is Orchard Road. You will still see a 4-bedroom duplex for 85, 80, thereabouts. Now, Orchard Road is in hot demand.
What could be driving it?
Yeah?
What's driving it?
One, they've done some parts of the road in Orchard Road. There's still traffic there anyways. But people are looking at it that Ikota even grew faster in terms of prices than Orchard.
Okay.
People will tell you, Chevron or Ikota, I don't want Orchard Road. because they were avoiding the traffic, on
at that
Orchard
time,
Road.
correct.
But Ikota's prices too has exploded.
Right.
So
there's a fallback now.
There's a fallback.
On
Let's go
Orchard
to
Road.
Orchard Road.
Yeah.
Now, Orchard Road prices too have gone up. Had someone that wanted to buy a 2-bedroom apartment in Orchard Road with MREF. And initially, the developer said 80 million. Lovely apartment, lovely development, said 80 million, we were on it. I think some days later, he comes back and says, you know what? It's 90 million he's selling now. And he sold it at 90 million within a week. Within a week. Had someone that had to buy luckily saw a 4-bedroom for 100. You know, it was the last unit there and he had all the documents. The man just wanted to let it go. Before we dropped like 90 something million, that next week we are coming with the balance. The next day the man calls and says someone has paid him outright.
Wow.
Crazy like that. So now people can't compete in terms of pricing in Chevron, Orchard Road, Ikota. They are falling back to Ajah.
Right.
Ajah prices too. I mean, you go to Ajah, I know a 4-bedroom, a 5-bedroom duplex in Ajah.
We're about 140, 150, thereabouts, if I'm not mistaken. More than that?
300 million.
Okay, but that would depend on the exact area, maybe, and the estates.
Yeah, exactly. So it depends on that.
Yeah.
If you push forward down to probably Badore,
Yes.
now that's on that side. People too are, the traffic
Because of access
and all that. But then the road is getting fixed.
Yeah.
From Abraham Adesanya to under the bridge and all of that. So before you know it, that place explodes as well. So right now, people are at a loss. People are at a loss, and the migration is happening further down. And some people are looking at it from this perspective that, hey, there's a coastal road. Even if I'm in Lakowe, even if I'm in Eleko, I can quickly access the coastal road.
Yeah.
From the coastal road to Lekki Phase 1 to VI, that's the central business hubs.
Yes.
30 minutes. Some of them might not know that they are going to pay tolls on that road. I think the last I heard was like 1,000 naira. So maybe you pass 3 tolls. That's 3,000 naira going, 3,000 naira coming.
Yes. But it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, so you look at it, you know. So that migration from within the state itself and from outside the state, and let's not try and make it look like it is just an island problem. The mainland is also going crazy. If you check prices of new developments, and the mainland is probably worse than in Ireland right now because there's no land on the mainland. So what you have is people buying old houses, tearing it down, erecting new structures.
Right.
That's what's happening on the mainland. And of course, they factor in the cost of the land itself, which is high. They factor in the payments for demolition. Of course, they get all kinds of permits from the government to demolish, and then permits to build what they want to build, and then the cost of even doing all the demolition itself. So you go to the mainland and you see a 2-bedroom apartment newly built, probably going for as much as 4-5 million naira. It's also crazy. And with that, Lagos State records the highest number of migration into the state than any other state.
So, I mean, very interesting analysis you've given there. And I totally agree with all that you said. The truth of the matter, really, when it comes to migration, is that it will continue to impact positively, to the activities, the number of transactions, and also the growth of real estate. What you said, in your analysis, which I want to bring out, is that for investors, there really is no such thing as this area isn't going to do well or whatever. You see, and let me point something else. I think that really is favoring the growth of real estate in this corridor, the Lekki-Ekpe corridor. You see this road that was done, the Lekki-Ekpe road, concrete that was done right from Adesanya all the way to Ekpe axis, actually has opened up real estate development. Accessibility is no longer an issue.
Yes.
Because travel time is very predictable along the axis. Now, the opening up again of the coastal road, even though it's still going to be told at some point in time, is another driver of real estate, for this axis, the Lekki axis.
Yes.
For properties in 2026, one very good outlook I want to give when regard to development and how migration also is shaping real estate here is that the opening up of these roads and how it has further penetrated the accessibility within these regions is also another driver of real estate in this new year.
Yes.
You see, properties were, some days ago, we were on our project in our Zen Oasis and we're talking about the impact of the coastal road on property prices. Fortunately enough, we saw that coming way ahead of the coastal road being developed and being done. And we, secured the property there. And, of course, we're bringing that to market later this year. But you see, the access to the Central Business District, VI, and also the ease of access to a Lekki as well, and the free trade zone is a major driver. And I want to see how fast development will happen along the coastal corridor. Yeah. That's another thing to watch out for in 2026, And, bringing me to, this thing just occurred to me, my next point, which is compliance in terms of construction. Of course, 2025 saw a fair share of demolitions happen in Lagos State. Matter of fact, we're still discussing before we came on the set how, a particular concerned intending subscriber was saying, these NOACs that we have along Coastal Road, though, hey, watch out for Tinubu. Are you sure? That conversation, right?
Yeah,
and I said, look,
that.
we're in full compliance. We make sure first and foremost, at Detail Apartments, that we are compliant from start to finish. Or from the state of the property, status of the property, ensuring that it has very good title, to full compliance when it comes to securing building approvals, also to stage certifications, ensuring that you continue to invite Lagos State to certify every milestone of your project, to the processing of the fitness and the fitness certificate of fitness and habitation, which is the next thing, for us on that project. Demolitions were a thing to put fear in the minds of the investors. Matter of fact, a lot of the aspirants, when they hear anything coastal road, they sometimes don't even care if it's a kilometer away. That sends tremors to them. But how do you see 2026 shaping the real estate space, when it comes to compliance and also this factor of demolitions, which really shaped 2025? In this new year, how do you think that is going to play out? Do you see people complying more? The average investor is a lot more informed now. Yeah. They're the ones that will tell you this area, something happened here, or this area, better be wary. I know that. So a lot of people are a lot more deliberate about accessing information way before, they make that commitment. How does that impact the real estate sector in 2026?
So there are a couple of things I'm going to touch on. One is the impact of the coastal road on the real estate corridor, from VI down to Lekki. 2026, we are going to see more people trying to take position along that corridor, because whatever land needs to be grabbed by the federal government for it has been grabbed. So what you have left are for people to take advantage of. But then you have to really be careful, because there's something I used to say back then. When people say politicians are greedy and all that, I say, you too be greedy. Yes, be greedy. Don't follow them. So if they are taking 5 kilometers, you take from 6 kilometers. Don't go and fight that 5 kilometers, because their eye will be there. And for the sector, one good way to make money is to look at where are your politicians putting their money in the sector. If they are pushing, if you see all of them now, you might not know them, but you listen to people like us, we will tell you where to go. If they are putting their money in one place, just know that, not that they are not stupid that they'll put their money somewhere that they will lose it. If they are putting their money in one place, you too. Someone used to give an analysis, say when you see people like Jeff Bezos and
Warren Buffett.
Right? Warren Buffett, yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Once you see them putting their money in a particular investment, just follow. You don't need to read market trends and charts. Just follow them. That's the same thing with Nigeria, basically.
Yeah.
Just follow them. Because wherever they are putting, where you see them rushing to, just know that they have planned something for that place. That if you are smart enough, you will also look for a way to take position.
But I really
around
want
it.
us to, and for our subscribers and the viewers, you know, to the channel, the role of compliance, you know, because that is very, very key. Yes, people have taken position and the corridor is hot for investment. It's good to see where you can plug in. But due diligence compliance, I want you to speak a lot more
Speak
on
about
that.
that. Okay, so I will speak to that with an example. So I have a client who wants to buy a house through MRIF. A couple of houses we've seen when we've investigated, they say, oh, they have their C of O, they have their consent, they have but when we investigate, they don't have.
Yeah.
And the transaction can't go forward. So going into 2026, now the problem is that a lot of those mini estates as such, they've sold, that developer has gone. So it's individuals that own. How do they go about getting building approval for the entire place and stuff of that nature? It's a problem. They can't sell. In 2026, they would not even be able to sell until they have those, because your buyers are more informed.
Correct.
Nobody right now that is right thinking is going to buy a property without checking not just that it has a consent, but approval numbers. And it's going to get to the stage where they're not just going to ask you for approval. They're going to say they want to see stage certifications.
Correct.
Most people don't know this.
Correct.
Every stage of the construction, you do your first floor slab, you're supposed to get a certification. You do your second floor, a certification. Your roofing, every stage of construction has a certification. Government agencies are to come check it and then give you a certification that yes, this passes. You can move to the next stage. 2026, people are going to start asking that question. Another thing people are going to start asking for, which a little bit more of awareness will be drawn to it, is the final stage of certification, which is fitness for habitation.
Yes.
So people don't know that because of demolitions and all the noise has been about approval, people just know approval. But the government can also come and hold you and say, where is your certificate for fitness for habitation?
Yes.
And if you don't have that, it's grounds for them to seal up your property or force you to pay a fine.
Yes.
So as 2026 goes along, people are going to be asking more of those questions. The government gave a 90-day window that elapsed. They extended it to January. Now, note, 2026 is a pre-election year.
Yeah.
There are certain things, I will just leave it at that. I will leave it at that, but if you are wise, you are wise. It's a pre-election year.
Yeah.
Real estate is the third largest sector in the economy, and it's probably going to, not probably, it's definitely going to grow bigger than in 2025.
Oh, definitely.
And it's a pre-election year.
Yeah.
He who has an ear, let him hear.
Now, you see, let me just emphasize certain things, you know, because as an architect, I'm a stickler for compliance, you know, when it comes to projects, not just our projects, you know, but projects that I'm involved with. And, you know, one thing that I have seen, of course, like you rightly said, the buyer now these days is really further along on harvesting whatever information that they need before they proceed with the transaction. Everybody used to think and dwell on, C of O, governor's consent. But it has gone deeper now, you know, to do you have your building approval? It's going to go a lot deeper as people become more informed. I know it's part of the reasons why we do, you know, podcasts like this, because we are very deliberate about informing people the things they need to know. Not just because we're doing them, but because it helps the entire industry itself. You see, when people are a lot more informed and there are fewer cases of scams or frauds because people are informed, then the economy can grow better. Because there are a lot more diasporans today, which of course I'm sure you know of, that have sworn never to have anything to do with real estate in Nigeria.
Yes.
So if by growing the industry ethically, to perhaps convince those to come back into the fold to say, you know what, I can invest safely back home. Because before now, it wasn't just a matter of, oh, I'm investing because I've done due diligence. Some people have done some levels of due diligence, some levels, and still lost out on the transactions. That's because due diligence is an entire field on its own.
Yeah.
it is beyond this place has governor's consent. Of course, you can have governor's consent, build and have your building demolished even without governor's consent that you have. And that's because there are things such as the building approval. There are things such as the state certifications. There are things such as the material testing certificates that you must get. There are things such as the certificates of completion and fitness for habitation. There are several layers to this. So the point is that a lot more is going to happen in 2026 in the information people want to get. And if you don't have that information, they're not transacting with you. People are done with emotional buying.
Yes.
I mean, you can hardly scam people to say, oh, just come and buy because it is finished. People want to know, even the integrity, the structural integrity of the structure. People are more aware to, and they are more deliberate about involving professionals. So everything may pass all the checks. You may have your consent, you may have your approvals, you may have your state certifications, you may even have that certificate of fitness habitation. But it takes someone to come to say, you know what, let me get my architect involved, let me get my engineer involved. They step into the building, they see that this and this and this wasn't done right. They advise the client, you are not advised to buy this particular thing. And because these people actually see that it is more profitable to hear now. Just like you said something in passing, look, if you do not hear and you put your hand inside it, you'll be left to blame. So I see 2026 being a year of people being a lot more deliberate and careful about their investments, so that at the end of the day, they have no tales or no stories that touch, or they do not have stories that, oh, I lost my investment. So there's a lot more careful investing I see in 2026 in that regard.
We're out of time.
Exactly.
And this discussion could keep going on. Architect Olamidun, thank you once again for joining us on Square Meter Stories. Hope to see you next time.
It's been a pleasure.
And we believe 2026 will be an awesome year for the sector as a whole.
Thank you so much, and Happy New Year once again.
Happy New Year once again. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Square Meter Stories. Until we come your way next time, have a great 2026. Thank you.
Stay blessed.